and then to be where we are now at again just over 4%. That's incredible. It could have been a lot worse, and we still got our challenges ahead of us. But I think our opportunities are just as great as long as we work together and make sure we overcome those challenges. Florida's going to bounce back stronger than before. But I do have a slideshow. It looks like it's already ready, loaded to go. Would love to just walk through this, give some outlook on the state and where we are, and then happy to answer questions as well. Let's see. Ken, it looks like you might be controlling the slideshow. I could also share my screen, but if you've got it, let's just go ahead and go to the next slide. There we go. So I'll start with the Department of Economic Opportunity, what we do. And some of you may have worked with the department in the past or have at least heard of it. If you've turned on the news in the last year, you would think Department of Economic Opportunity is unemployment assistance, which is certainly a very important thing that we do here at the department. And we work tirelessly to make sure that those who have been out of work through no fault of their own are able to receive the benefits that they are eligible for. And that's been certainly a challenge due to the pandemic and the task, the unprecedented amount that came into the department. And we continue to work at that, and I'll dive into that. But the department does so many things when it comes to community involvement around the state, business involvement with individuals to make sure they have what they need, to make sure that everybody has that economic opportunity. Sorry to be cliche, but that our state is moving forward and that people have what they need to make sure that they are able to produce, provide for their families, and expand. So we used to be 3 different agencies pre-2011. And the legislature and then Governor Scott combined us into one. And those agencies still exist under different names as department or divisions within this department. First, we had Division of Community Development. That was previously known as the Department of Community Affairs. And through that division, we work very closely with HUD at the federal level to administer community development block grants, among many other things that we have here at the state level. But we work very closely with our communities, whether it's counties, Volusia County, that would be the cities, Daytona, whatever city we might have across the state that's looking for assistance from the state, either to help redevelop different areas or rebuild from storms. A lot of the CDBG funds that we get from HUD are specifically for that, to rebuild from past hurricanes and then build stronger for that unforeseen storm that we know is going to come because we are Florida and we're no stranger to hurricanes. So that's a very important thing that we do there. We also have the Office of Broadband that was implemented within that division by the legislature last summer. Next, we have Division of Strategic Business Development. That was formerly the Governor's Office of Tourism, Trade, Economic Development. And through that division, we work very closely with Enterprise Florida, Visit Florida, Space Florida. Those are contracted partners where we try to attract people to Florida, attract businesses to Florida, and make sure that those who are here in Florida, the businesses have the tools they need to be able to expand and be competitive. Then we have Division of Workforce Services. And that is the agency where we work the division that we work very closely with Department of Labor. That's where we administer our unemployment insurance, which we call in Florida reemployment assistance. That's where we release our labor statistics, unemployment statistics that we just released yesterday, and we do every month. And that's where we have our workforce services working very closely and contracting with CareerSource in the communities across our state to make sure that those who are looking for employment can find it. And if they need better skills or help working on a resume, whatever that might be to make themselves more marketable, we'll also assist them with that as well. So we have over 1,800 employees here at the department, and we are the equivalent of Department of Labor, HUD, and Department of Commerce all wrapped into one here at the state level. So we have been very busy. Next slide, please, if you don't mind, Ken. So here's some of the data that we were able to release yesterday. Again, very pleased to announce that we are at that unemployment rate of 4.8%, well below the national average of 6.3%. We've been able to add jobs for 9 consecutive months, month-over-month job growth, dating back to last summer as the governor reopened our state, adding over 700 jobs in the state of Florida. And obviously the areas that are bouncing back: trade, transportation, utilities, construction, education, health services, you name it. They've all taken a hit, unfortunately, this past year, but they're all bouncing back stronger and better than before. And we're, as an agency, working with people like you in the communities, we're going to do everything we can to make sure that businesses, employees, employers have the tools they need to move forward. Next slide, please, Ken. Volusia County, 5.1%, still well below the state's average. So well done to all of you for the work you're doing, not only in your own businesses, but in your community to make sure that you are open for business and people are able to go to work. You've seen growth this past month in professional and business services and in construction. Next slide, please. Florida online job ads. This just gives you an outlook, an idea that Florida really is open for business. Starting at the beginning of that slide, you can see January 2019, which was a great economy, as you know, very low unemployment rate, yet there were still 300,000 online job ads in the state of Florida, showing that even with low unemployment, there are employers out there that are looking to hire. And then you can kind of see that that dip and then a hump that's kind of natural as you go through the seasons. But then you see May 2020 right there, where we saw that low of just under 200,000 online job ads. Of course, that was while we were shut down. Obviously, still employers out there looking to hire, but very tough to do so when you have a pandemic and stay-at-home orders. But you see it jumping right back up. Governor opened up the state. Here we are, January 2021, with almost 400,000 online job ads, just showing that employers are looking to hire people. Florida's open for business, and those who are looking for work can find it if they're looking hard enough. Next slide, please. And here's the unemployment rate. You can see at the beginning of this, that just gives kind of an idea of how this current pandemic compares to the Great Recession, which is, at least in our lifetimes, one of the worst times for unemployment. Obviously, we started in the early 2000s, mid 2000s, with a very good economy, and then that gradually crept up over the course of a few years to that then all-time high of 10.9%. That was the highest unemployment rate that we had recorded since we've been recording here in Florida. And then we had 10 years of steady growth for low unemployment, and we hit that all-time low of 3.3% in February 2020, as I was discussing earlier. And then you can just see it skyrocket virtually overnight. In a matter of 60 days, we went from 3.3% all-time low to that new all-time high of 14.2% unemployment rate, which is just, it's terrible. People out of work through no fault of their own, obviously a worldwide global pandemic. And we did everything we could to make sure that with the knowledge we had of the virus at the time, make sure people were protected, and therefore the economy was at a standstill. But there you see it again, the governor reopening the state after we had the tools we needed and the knowledge we knew of the virus and how to maintain it. And we've had that gradual growth again to hit that low of 4.8%. Let's hope we continue to dip and get back closer to where we were pre-pandemic, but we are very close. We're at a healthy economy, and we're going to continue to grow. Weekly claims. So this gives you an idea of what we've dealt with here at the agency when it comes to unemployment claims. And again, just showing that comparison to the Great Recession. You start there when we were at our worst unemployment rates, 40,000 claims on average at the worst that we saw, and that's on a weekly average here at the department. Now, what we'll say about the Great Recession is that was much more gradual, right? We saw a gradual creep up in unemployment, and then it gradually went back down over a longer period of time. What was different this time around, you go to the latter end of this graph and you just see that drastic spike. It wasn't a gradual shutdown like we had with the natural recession. This was a mandated shutdown where people, again, through no fault of their own, were out of work and desperately needed government's assistance to be able to pay their bills. And they turned to unemployment, which is owed to them as federally and state laws require. And we went from that 40,000 claims on high to over 250,000 there. And we're down now to a weekly average of under 20,000 claims per week. So there are still people out there that certainly need assistance that, with the vaccine not fully being out there yet, they may have, with the federal programs that are out there, PUA allows them, if they're vulnerable, to stay home and continue to collect. And while that's great for those that need it, we certainly want to get back to normalcy. And I'm sure anybody that's on unemployment would rather be able to feel safe in their work environment and get back to work. And that's what all of our goals are collectively as a society. Next slide, please. So as we discussed unemployment there, and obviously our work is to get everybody back to work, and we'll work closely with CareerSource to make sure that those are on unemployment have the ability, the tools they need, working with CareerSource around the state to get back to work. That is a focus of ours, but a great focus of ours continues to be investing in our communities. as I mentioned, through the Division of Community Development. So we are very proud as a department over the past 5 years to award over $40 million to Volusia County. And you can see there how that's broken down. And these are largely through different block grants that we might have available. You'll see there towards the bottom, Rebuild Florida Infrastructure, Rebuild Florida Housing. Those are the HUD grants that are given to us to rebuild after storms. And then there's money even dating back to Hermine and Matthew, which, believe it or not, we're still rebuilding from some major infrastructure pieces. And the way that works is HUD will come in years after a storm. This is through the Office of Long-Term Resiliency that we house here. So after a hurricane hits, we would all hope that in a perfect world, a business, an individual has insurance that would cover everything. We always know that's not always the case. So other mechanisms step in, FEMA, small business development loans, and then on the very back end, HUD will step in with our partnership to make sure that we are really in that long-term resiliency as an agency of last resort to help out. Next slide. So here are some of the grants that would be available that are still open to different communities, whether it's the county or the cities, which are typically the mechanisms that we would operate with. So happy to have discussions with any of you offline on how we can assist in applying for some of these grants, but they are here, they're available, and our job is to make sure that these taxpayer dollars that are housed with us aren't sitting here in a government coffer. They're there in the communities doing what they're intended to do to help spur the economy. Next slide, please. It is session, and obviously that's the time of year that we all gather. And again, sorry you can't be here, but we're still working diligently. A lot of it is virtual. As I mentioned, not everybody's in the Capitol unless you're a House member, a senator, the governor, or the staff that are working behind the scenes or in session in those committee rooms. But we're working very diligently, and here are the budget requests that we have asked for through the governor's office. The governor signed off on in his Florida Leads budget. First and foremost, we want to fully fund the affordable housing program. Those are the Zadowski funds that largely come from the dock stamp sales. So we have over $420 million available there in that trust fund that we hope to fully fund and be able to go to the communities around the state to make sure that affordable housing is available to those who need it. We are asking for $50 million for the Florida Job Growth Grant Fund that was adopted in 2017 by the legislature, and we at DEO work with the governor's office to make sure that those funds are implemented in communities where infrastructure or workforce and education needs are present. We are asking for $50 million to fund Visit Florida, which is what they were funded at annually last year. And that, of course, is to make sure that people know Florida is open not only for business, but for tourists as well. Tourism is one of our lifebloods here in our state, one of the top ones. And unfortunately, we took a large hit last year. So we certainly want people to come back as they feel safe and the vaccine's been administered more widely. Come to Florida and come spend your sales tax dollars, please. Statewide branding campaign, $5 million that EFI Enterprise Florida will use to make sure that, again, businesses around the state know that Florida is open for business. We've seen drastic differences in how states have handled this virus. Governor DeSantis made a very strong decision to stay open and was heavily criticized for it. Other states decided to stay shut down. I'm sure, of course, they were heavily criticized too. It's hard to make a decision in this atmosphere and not be criticized, but the governor made the right decision. We've seen that businesses that are in some of these states that decided to shut down are looking to Florida with renewed interest. We've already had a great regulatory tax environment, of course, beautiful natural environments. And then you add on the fact that we've stayed open while other states have closed down. We really are presenting a great opportunity for businesses to come and open or relocate. Space Florida, we're asking for $6 million to invest in the aerospace financing program with Kennedy Space Center and a lot that you see over there in your neck of the woods. There is an industry there that we can call home for Florida that many other states don't have the opportunity to do so. So we want to make sure we continue to culture that and make sure these businesses know that they can call Florida home. And then last on this list, at least, there's many other things that we are working on, but Florida Office of Broadband, $3.2 million to make sure that that office is fully funded, that we are looking across the state for areas that may not have access. The legislature, which I was a part of this past year, 2020, passed this and implemented it before COVID was even a reality. Broadband has always been important in this modern age to make sure that it's available to anyone who needs it. And then you put COVID on top of that, and it became even more needed when you're locked in your home, but yet you still want to be able to work or telework. You need that access. If you are looking to go see your doctor, but it was at a time when it wasn't safe to, go to an emergency room, whatever it might be, you could do telehealth. Or if your school shut down, you can virtually learn. Those opportunities were granted during the shutdown. But if you didn't have broadband, you couldn't access it. So it became even more needed at that time, and we want to make sure that we pursue that option. Next slide, please. And our legislative priorities. We have 3 bills out there that we are working on very diligently. The first one, sponsored by Senator Bean and Representative Chip LaMarca, is an agency package. What I did when I got here is I looked to our staff and our different divisions and said, what do we need to be more efficient as an agency to make sure that we are delivering? A lot of it is focused on the reemployment assistance program, modernizing Connect. As we all know, the Connect system, as I mentioned earlier, and you've probably been aware of, was not able to handle the traffic that came to it as a result of the shutdown. No one could have predicted this could have happened to this degree, but now that we know, we need to fix it moving forward and make sure it's scalable, more modernized, user-friendly, and then we address a few other things in our agency as well. Senator Bean passed that through its first committee stop yesterday. We're hoping to have it up in the House next week. Then we've got a public records exemption sponsored by Senator Gaynor in the Senate, Representative G. Lombardo in the House. When we administered some small business development loans during the pandemic this year, we realized that some of that personal and private information of the individuals applying was subject to public records requests. We certainly don't want to exempt the names of the businesses that are applying. I think that's the right of the taxpayers to know who's applying for these loans. But the social security numbers, the tax credit score, or the credit scores of the individuals, that should be exempt and held private. So that's what this bill would do, and that's passed its first stop in the House and Senate and is moving on to its second stop. Then we've got the Qualified Target Industry Tax Incentive Program sponsored by Senator Gruters in the Senate and Chip LaMarca in the House. That's a program that we have administered in the state for quite a while. Unfortunately, it sunsetted this past year, and this bill would simply re-implement it. We certainly, as a state, have been very critical of some tax incentive programs of the past. If you're handing out just big checks to companies to come relocate to Florida with little oversight, that's certainly problematic. This is not that kind of program. This is saying if you're going to come to Florida and invest a certain amount of money, create a certain amount of jobs at a certain threshold, and you're able to hold that commitment, we'll give you a tax break on the back end. So I think that's very prudent, and it passed its first stop in the Senate. We're hoping to get a hearing in the House. And next slide, I think that is the final one. Yes, thank you for the opportunity. I hope that was informative, but obviously would love to answer any questions you all might have. And again, sorry you can't be here in person. Look forward to having you next year, but the work of the people is happening at the Capitol. So while I look at it from across the street, and I'm over there at least once a day, having some sort of committee hearing or conversation, happy to answer any questions you might have or give any insight.
Well, we certainly appreciate your time today. I think we have one question actually from Mr. Cameron, and you may have covered this, my apologies, but weekly benefits increase from 275 to 375. Do you feel like that's something that will happen, or are there changes expected?
There's it's obviously a discussion that's going to happen. We as a department have not addressed that issue. We decided that the bill we put forward, the Department of Economic Opportunities agency package, is process driven. So we looked at efficiencies to the system and how we can at least make sure that those claims are processed more quickly. Whether you receive $1 or $275 or more than that, we treat every claim equally, and we want to make sure that that benefit's paid as quickly as possible. So we focused on the process and felt that the policy decisions, who is eligible, how long and how much, probably best left up to the legislators who are going to debate that more extensively. And those discussions are ongoing. Of course, I don't have that crystal ball of how it's going to go. There are a lot of opinions one way or the other, as is the case in politics, but I know those conversations will happen. But the bill we put forward is aimed strictly at the process to make sure it's more efficient.
No, thank you. And I think we'd all like to have that crystal ball right about now, or maybe about a year ago. That would have been
Yeah,
great.
that would have been very helpful. Yes.
Well, I don't see any more questions on the docket here, but we certainly appreciate your time today, and keep doing what you're doing to get us back and running. And we look forward to hosting you at Daytona anytime you're in the area. Stop by the chamber and say hello.
I look forward to it. Happy to provide any information if you want to facilitate that to the members. Questions moving forward, let us know. Again, wish we could be able to see face to face, but the governor's focused on the vaccine. He's relentless, and as that gets out in the communities, look forward to getting back to normal and seeing you all soon. But we're here to help, and we're here working for you, so let us know what we can do.
Thank you.